is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game. Come on!
We back. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's the Pregame Show with Joe Spadoni, and you got me for the next hour right here on 95.7 The Game. We got a lot to get into. We had Buster Posey being announced yesterday as new president of baseball operations for your San Francisco Giants. Still weird to say. Just Farhan's gone, and the amount of time we spent at this station talking about that guy, it's kind of been a whirlwind, honestly. Because I want to say I started out on the programming side here just as he was getting hired. 2018, right? So if he was since 2018, that's about right. When I started producing here at the station. Now I did promo before that. I was with the Cluster long before that. Worked for a bunch of other ones, including 95.7 The Game. But Farhan and I kind of tied at the hip a little bit. Because when he got his gig back in the Bay, I got mine. Now, the difference is I still got mine. Farhan obviously made a lot more money than me. But other than that, basically the same thing. So Farhan's gone. Buster Posey in. He spoke alongside owner Greg Johnson yesterday and Bob Melvin. Bob Melvin didn't say much. Although Sam Lubman, hell of a job yesterday. We had a couple people from 95.7 The Game down there. Sam Lubman, Mark Willard asking questions. Great job, guys. We had a great presence down at 24 Willie Mays Plaza. And I'm going to be honest, as soon as I started listening to that whole press conference, because we had it live here at 95.7 The Game, and we'll react to some of the sound, I was just like, oh my God, I forgot how... if no one else wants to say it, I'll say it. I forgot how boring Buster Posey is when he speaks. He's just... And I get it. Hey, when he speaks, people listen. That's all that matters. If he could be as boring as hell to the media. That doesn't matter to me. Can he get the job done with the free agents? When it comes to signing, when it comes to getting to know some of these players, can he deliver when it counts there? He can be as boring as you want. Hey, Bill Belichick, for whatever we want to say about him, he was boring to the media and say anything. Yeah, Cincinnati. Yeah. That's what he did. But now it's Buster's turn again to be the face of this franchise. And I think the goal is that he isn't the face of the franchise in a couple years. That they have a player, an active player that could be the face of the franchise like Buster used to be. But for now, it's absolutely Buster Posey again because he's a familiar face. Yeah, we like Logan Webb, not the face of a franchise. Elliot Ramos, great year, not the face of a franchise. And it doesn't always have to be a player. Hell, I think a lot of people think Kyle Shanahan's the face of the 49ers franchise. We've had that discussion many times, although Brock Purdy, I think, is slowly shifting that narrative. We got a lot going on in baseball. We got a lot going on in football. I see it all on my screens right now, whether it's ESPN, whether it's NFL Network. Davante Adams, East Palo Alto's own Fresno State legend and current Las Vegas Raider, is requesting a trade. Now, this comes after a couple days of where Antonio Pierce liked a tweet, a Sports Illustrated tweet, I want to say, in regards to Davante Adams playing his last down as a Las Vegas Raider. Now, if you recall, I think I got the sound here. Antonio Pierce, after the loss to the Carolina Panthers and Andy Dalton, and one of the worst losses of the season by any team, just that team wasn't doing anything. They benched Bryce Young and then absolutely turned into the greatest show on turf going to Vegas after the Raiders have a massive win over the Baltimore Ravens at the time. And just get destroyed. And Antonio Pierce in that game said there were certain players making business decisions. And I got to be honest, that felt like at this point, in hindsight, that was a shot at Davante Adams. He was calling out Davante Adams for making business decisions late in that game, maybe not giving his full effort. The game was over, yada, yada, yada. But it does appear that Davante Adams, and I'd be shocked if he plays this week. He has a hamstring injury, I guess. I'd be shocked if he played another down for the Las Vegas Raiders. His contract is set up in a way where it's basically all the guaranteed money is this season, and then you can get a new contract. So for teams that are interested in trading for him, he is basically a rental. Because once he signs to your team, he's going to want a new contract, or he's going to test free agency. And the compensation for rentals, not as much compared to if he had, a couple years left on his deal. But it's a rental. So a second round, a third rounder, it's probably what you're looking at. Probably not a first. Although if there gets into a bidding war, maybe it does turn into a first. And since we are here, and I am broadcasting the San Francisco Bay Area, I'll ask Niner fans. Interest level in one Davante Adams is 888-957-9570. I would love to hear it. Would love to hear it. We have a certain disgruntled wide receiver here right now in the Bay Area. And if you don't want to say he's disgruntled, I'm going to say it's Brandon Ayuk. Ayuk for Davante? That was a conversation in the offseason. Do you revisit that? Do you even need to give up Ayuk? I think the salaries match. There's talks of, obviously, Aaron Rodgers, longtime Green Bay Packer, played with Davante for a very long time, probably made him into a Hall of Famer, and vice versa. But are the Jets going to look into it? They have Garrett Wilson there. Are the Raiders looking for another wide receiver? Are they just looking for picks? It's just so Raiders, too. It's just, and it pains me to say that because I bleed silver and black, but this franchise just can't get out of its own way. Every year it's something. Whether it's Josh McDaniels last year, you watch the receiver, Doc. Davante wanted to leave then. I think that the writing was on the wall. He wanted to leave. And you saw a player this offseason, according to reports, in Davante Adams that still wanted to be traded. Yeah, that was conversation. This is all the reports we're seeing now. It's Antonio Pierce said this thing. Davante Adams said this. Who's tried to save face here? Now it's Davante Adams saying, you know what? I wanted to be traded all along this offseason. Tom Telesco, the general manager of the Raiders, didn't want to entertain it. Well, okay. So here we are. Davante Adams already on the trade block. I think that was one of my 4-down territories that Sam did early on in the season. I want to say it was either that or a Walk It Back Wednesday. But I'm almost 1,000% positive I said by week 8, Davante Adams would not be a Las Vegas Raider. I did not have a good feeling about this season, about Antonio Pierce, about heading it. And honestly, the writing was on the wall when he decided not to draft a quarterback. And you can say, oh, well, it was out of their hands, Spadoni. Who saw the Atlanta Falcons trade up for Penix? I don't know. It's the first round. It's a deep wide receiver draft. People are going to trade up. You got to anticipate that. And they didn't. And they saw all these different quarterbacks. And if they were really putting all their eggs into the Jaden Daniels basket, please. There's no way Washington was moving off that pick, even if you offered a king's ransom. You know what? They clearly made the right choice because Jaden Daniels is a baller and looking like the best rookie quarterback out of the bunch. Although it's not saying much because Bo Nix hasn't looked great. Neither has Caleb Williams. So you didn't get a quarterback. You came into the season with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell in a division where there's Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. And Bo Nix, for that matter, because at least the Broncos are trying to move into a different direction. So you look at that situation overall. Why would a receiver like Davante Adams look at that and say, yeah, I need to get out of here? I would. It's not good enough. And yeah, I would have rather seen more of Aiden O'Connell because at least he was a rookie last year and you can say, hey, let's build off something. But we haven't seen him at all. Didn't win the job in the preseason. He threw a pick 6 against Dallas. That pretty much sealed his fate. And now you have Gardner Minshew out there with holding onto the ball forever and not creating anything. And for all those people in my mentions last year wanted to rag on Brock Purdy, saying, oh, Gardner Minshew could do this and this. Please, miss me. Seen enough of Gardner Minshew to tell me he's a backup, journeyman quarterback. He can win you a spot start here or there like he's done the last couple seasons, but he's not the guy. And it's just clearly a rebuilding project, again, for Las Vegas. So I'd be shocked, again, if Devontae Adams played another down with the Raiders this year. Would be absolutely shocked. Wouldn't surprise me if he goes to the Jets. Wouldn't surprise me if he goes to a team like the Bills. But for the 49ers, what are you willing to offer? If it means you're in a bidding war with another team, do you put Brandon Ayuk on the table? Do you not budge because it is a rental? I mean, if this is Super Bowl or bust, this is the year. Do you overpay for a guy like that? Or do you say, you know what? We're good. He's a little older. I like our guy. We just paid. We'll see. I love the drama of the NFL, though. I'm not going to lie. What does Bonte like to say? The business part of him? Well, the business part of me with this Devontae thing is I'm loving it. The fan in me is absolutely just disgusted. I don't blame Devontae Adams. How could you? This guy's a future Hall of Famer. The only reason he came here, other than the money, and to move closer to the West Coast, the only reason he came to Vegas was because of that connection with Derek Carr, so he says. And in that first season with him, to his credit, he was first-team All-Pro. And since then, it's been a little underwhelming. You've had Jimmy Garoppolo, who, as we've seen, almost made Devontae quit the NFL. And then he's had Aiden O'Connell. And then he's had Gardner Minshew. God love him. I think that makes me want to leave a team too. That's just, it's not good enough. Especially in that division and especially in the AFC. So he's looking to upgrade at quarterback, whether that's a Brock Purdy, whether that's a Josh Allen, whether that's an Aaron Rodgers. Hell, does he go back to New Orleans and hang out with his buddy Derek Carr? That's a team I wouldn't sleep on either. Him, Olave, got Kamara there. Hey, if you feel like you're a contender in the NFC, why not? Because the Saints have gotten humbled the last couple weeks. That's a fact. Everyone's all on the Derek Carr bandwagon. Now, lost to the Eagles, lost to the Falcons. Not looking too hot. From the, almost said it. The Comcast business text line. The Comcast business text line. 888-957-9570. Good morning to all you just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school. It's hot, man. It was hot out there as I'm wearing a beanie in a nicely cold studio, but it's hot out there. It was already hot this morning. It's a little muggy, so please be safe. We still have the extreme heat condition warning on our smartphones if you're on your weather app. What is it supposed to be today as I pull it up? It's going to be another scorcher here. Well, in San Francisco, it's going to be beautiful. It'll be 83 degrees. That's bearable. Oakland, though, where I'm at, I think it's supposed to be like 91 again. Ugh. Gross. I mean, you guys know me. Grew up on Monterey Coast where it's foggy all year round. Anything over 70 degrees is unbearable. Unbearable. From the Comcast Biz text line, I'll give them Ayuk, a second rounder, and a swap O'Connell for Brandon Allen. Well, that sounds perfect. That's from the 510. So give me your backup quarterback who's won games for you. Give me your second round pick, and we'll take Devontae. And you guys get Brandon Ayuk. Did I get that right? Or are you saying you swap the second round? You give up the second round plus Ayuk plus Brandon Allen? Honestly, I think the Raiders do that deal. If you can get a player back, I think that changes things. And if the 49ers are willing to give up Brandon Ayuk, who again has a tie with Antonio Pierce, who used to be one of his college coaches at ASU when he was on Herman Edwards' staff. Forks up. So it makes sense from that point. if you got two disgruntled superstars, maybe superstar strong for Ayuk, but he's a star nonetheless. He was second team All-Pro. I'll give him that. But one superstar for another star, and that's the difference. Yeah, if I'm the Raiders, I'm doing that deal. Do that deal all day long. Now, do they covet something else? Are they looking at Garrett Wilson with the Jets? I mean, does Mark Davis want to do business with the 49ers? I wouldn't see why not. It's an NFC team. If anything, I want him out of conference, right? I don't want him going to the Chiefs. I don't really want him going to the Jets. I don't want to make his life better, right? I don't want to just give in to whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers. And if he's played his last down, you got to take what you can get. Your only hope is, again, a bidding war between these teams. Now, there's going to be some other names that are going to be available. And is that going to take a slice out of the Davante Adams market? Guys like Amari Cooper. Browns don't look very good right now. And Amari Cooper's another guy who's basically a rental. DeAndre Hopkins. Is that a guy? I mean, the Titans just got their first win, but they don't know what they're doing. Will Levis, please. Miss me. So does that take a little bit out of the market for a Davante Adams? Because he's still clearly, I think out of those three, the best. Over Cooper, who's had a pretty damn good career, honestly. Over DeAndre Hopkins, who's obviously had an incredible career. Over a guy like Garrett Wilson, if you're going to trade him. You got to feel like if you get a Davante Adams, he's going to put you over the top. And for the 49ers, getting a possession receiver like that with the hands that he has, and specifically the red zone threat that he is. And that's another thing in all this. And Brian Baldinger of the NFL Network and R95.7 The Game, NFL Insider, joined the Morning Roast yesterday, courtesy of the River Islands guest line, as he does each and every Tuesday. Find that entire interview on YouTube or download the free Odyssey app. Like, subscribe, all that. He was talking about the red zone issues yesterday, and he's basically saying sometimes you just got to force feed your best players in that part of the field, and the 49ers haven't done that enough. They did it with George Kittle last week when he was in triple coverage, and Purdy threw a dime fade in the corner of the end zone. It was a touchdown. And you let your playmakers make plays. If you get a guy like Davante Adams, you let him make plays. Now, it'd be an adjustment. Purdy working through that, all that. But you know what? I got faith in Shanahan. I got faith in Purdy. They would find a way to make it work. Right? I mean, it's Davante freaking Adams. You do things to get him the ball. And in this scenario, you would still have Debo. You would still have Kittle. You'd still have Jordan Mason. Yeah, I love my chances in the NFC. And by the way, the NFC right now, who's impressing you the most? The Lions? I think that defense could be had a little bit. Their offense is scary. And I think that's why it's important to start stacking these wins if you're the 49ers, because not that they can't win in Detroit, because the 49ers have shown they could win anywhere. I mean, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo looking like he looked like a 1930s quarterback, meaning they don't throw the ball in that game against Green Bay. When Hufanga had the blocked punt, the special teams won the day, which seems like forever ago. I think that's the last team the special teams won the 49ers anything, to be honest. But you look at the history of Shanahan in the playoffs, it doesn't matter where he is. You'd like him to be home, but he can go on the road. Now, he has losses at SoFi Stadium. He has losses in Philadelphia. That is true. And Detroit would be a tough place to play. So that's why it is so damn important. You're looking at Arizona. You're looking at Seattle. Then you're looking at the Chiefs. You're looking at all these teams up and coming. You got to start stacking wins now. And if you add a guy like a Davante Adams, yeah. Not only are they still the best team in the NFC, that there is a leg above everyone else. That's how important an addition like that would be. Now, is there anyone that doesn't want to deal with that? Is there anyone that's saying, no, I'm good off that? I want to keep Ayuk. We paid him. The age becomes a factor here too. Ayuk is still young, way relative than Davante Adams. How many more years did Davante have as an elite wide receiver? I mean, it's a fair question. But if you're just looking at it through the lens of this season, it's a no-brainer. But GMs and head coaches, they're all not always looking at it like that. That's the fan perspective. That's the fan angle in us. Just looking, just blinders on. How can we win this season? But with Devontae, you're potentially giving up a lot for just a rental, then he can bounce. Now, he's from the Bay Area, East Palo Alto, like I mentioned. Does he want to move his family out here after already moving them from Green Bay, Wisconsin? He just had a baby. Clearly, that's not a problem, though, because he's looking to leave. I wonder. Again, the NFL, the storylines is just incredible. I think Devontae Adams' storyline yesterday dominated all the MLB playoff picture. I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch a lick of the playoffs yesterday. Not a lick. Maybe a little bit because Evan Giddings had it on. Yeah, Detroit and Houston, and Detroit wins 3-1 there. Scooble, he'll be the Cy Young in the American League. That's good. Anyone but Houston. I think that's where I'm at rooting-wise, right? I think that's where most of us, anyone but Houston. Everyone's going to be anti-Yankees, so maybe Yankees and Dodgers. That's fine. But Houston, I'm just sick of them. Altuve, Breck, just leave. Just go. Don't want to see you. Out of sight, out of mind.
Just sell and just fire everybody.
That's how I feel. Just please leave. And speaking of selling and firing everybody, and no, we're not talking about Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce in Las Vegas. Although, anytime your head coach is liking social media posts in regards to letting a player go, it's just amateur hour. It really is. And I wanted to like Antonio Pierce. He says the right things. He's a player's coach, clearly, but he's acting like a player, right? Like that's not a head coach. That's not a leader. That's not what they do. Liking social media, please, that's all noise. Noise. And I want to say when he took over the job, that's what he wanted to block out was all the noise. He wanted it to be about football. He wanted it to be about the X's and O's. Last year, the team almost made the playoffs after he took over. You know, they won on Christmas against the Chiefs. It was great. Everyone was all in on Antonio Pierce. But now, this comes with the job. This comes with the territory. This is kind of like what we're talking about with Buster Posey. That player to GM or coach, it's a huge transition. And managing relationships and knowing what to say and when to say it is just as important as the X's and O's sometimes. And the message that you are sending out to a fan base and to the media. And right now, after his recent comments saying players are making business decisions and he was calling them out and then apologizing for those comments over the weekend, saying it caused a distraction, your head coach is causing a lot of distractions right now. With your star player on offense, your best player on offense, some might say the best player on the team. I'd probably go with Max Crosby there, but if you want to take Devontae, that's fine. And you've had the comments a lot. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look. And stop me if you've heard that before when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders. Wasn't a good look with Josh McDaniels. Wasn't a good look with John Gruden. Wasn't a good look with Jack Del Rio, Dennis Allen, Tom Cable, Hugh Jackson. The list goes on and on and on. Callahan. It just, what can you say? They need a quarterback. Bad. It changes everything. And right now they don't have one. Devontae wants to go, and I don't blame him. Like, see, look at Washington, for example. Their whole perspective and future outlook shifted within the last couple weeks. How we view that franchise shifted from 0 to 100 because of 2 weeks. That's how much narratives can change in the NFL. Washington was a laughingstock until 2 weeks ago. Why? Their quarterback, rookie quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner out of LSU, Jaden Daniels, put on a show against Cincinnati and then against Arizona this past week. And now he has put the league on notice. And he has given a franchise hope. Much like Buster Posey has given a lot of Giants fans hope Jaden Daniels now has done the same in Washington, and it changes a narrative, and it changes perception. And hopefully for the Giants, if Buster Posey can produce, again, he's not on the field like Jaden Daniels, a little different, but you get what I'm saying. Like, that's what you're hoping for, the instant productivity. And for Buster Posey's sake, as we tie this all back to the Giants, you're hoping that not only can he be the guy in the room to get these free agents to come, but you're hoping he can be the guy in the room during the development process with some of your prospects that, you know what, can put some of these guys and give them the confidence to go over the edge and be what Buster Posey was as a player, a guy that came up and never went back down. And as a future Hall of Famer, multi-time All-Star, you're not looking just for Hall of Famers. You're looking for just good players that can play every day. Doesn't mean you have to be an All-Star. And I think that's what Giants fans are hoping for most. Accountability, players you can root for on a daily basis, and just normalcy, right? For as boring as Buster could be talking to the media, at least you know him. At least he's out in the community. At least he bleeds orange and black. I know that. I did not get any of that from Farhan Zaidi. Hell, give me the seriousness over, this.
I actually just got off the phone with the White House. I called to ask if negotiating 3 deals with Scott Boras in one offseason qualifies you for a Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Did he try that joke last night at the vice presidential debate? Try that one with J.D. Vance or Waltz? Oof. See ya, Farhan. I'm going to miss that joke. Maybe I'll keep playing it, though. I'll leave it on the board. Might come in handy. We're up against it. One segment down, 2 more to go. 888-957-9570. Niners fans, Devontae Adams and the Raiders looking like they're heading their separate ways. You interested? 888-957-9570. Plus, we'll react to more of the Buster Posey press conference. All that and more right here on the pregame show, 95.7 The Game.
Did you know when you purchase lumber and building materials from Golden State?
Spadoni, shut up!
You're listening to the pregame show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
That one gets me every time. They clearly wanted Andrew Wiggins to have some more emphasis on the name Spadoni. One more time.
You're listening to the pregame show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
It's so good. Oh, I love you. Andrew Wiggins, just because that rejoin now, yeah, I'm also buying stock in Andrew Wiggins like Bonta Hill. I am.
I'm buying stock in Andrew Wiggins.
Buy it. Buy, baby. And no, as I'm wearing a Backstreet Boys shirt, I'm down with NSYNC, though. I was never into that. I think Backstreet Boys had the quantity of hits, but I think NSYNC had more quality in theirs, if that makes sense. I mean, it's going to be me. Bye. Come on. Those clear, I want it that way and larger than life. No offense, as I'm wearing the shirt. It's all right. Also, the NSYNC Christmas album, all time. As Christmas, it's a couple months away, baby. Last Christmas. Oh, I can't wait. Wham, baby. Still the best Christmas song. As I discussed with someone yesterday. We were both discussing that. Our favorite Christmas song, both, was Last Christmas. And good morning to that person, and good morning to all of you at 888-957-9570. That's the number to call or text. You got me for 2 more segments here before handing it off to Bonta Hill and Joe Shasky. I'm sure they will have thoughts on Devontae Adams being on the trade block, because that is the latest right now, whether it's Rappaport, whether it's Vinny Bonsignor, who had it first with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, whether it's Schefter, whether it's Andrew, or who's my guy, Jordan Schultz, any of those guys. And now there's this trying to save face. Oh, who wanted to get traded first? Oh, Devontae always wanted to be traded. Oh, no, Antonio Pierce liking the tweet. That was the nail of the He said, she said. Fact of the matter is, if you're a contending team right now in the NFL, you are calling Tom Telesco, general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders, and figuring out what's going on here. What is it going to take? He's essentially a rental. All the guaranteed money is up this year. Getting a second, if you're in a bidding war, sure. It doesn't feel like you're probably going to get a first. For rentals, it just doesn't happen. Given his age, I doubt it. But you never know. If a team's willing to sweeten the pot, let's say Team X is offering a player in the 3rd round pick, but Team Y is offering a 1st round pick, what do you take? How much do you value that player? There's a potential bidding war here is what I'm getting at. Potential. But maybe not. Why? Like I mentioned last segment, Amari Cooper of the Browns, prime trade candidate. Hell, they were trying to move off him for Brandon Ayuk this past summer. That didn't work. Kyle Shanahan was all for that. I'm sure Amari was too. But Ayuk's like, I don't want to go to Cleveland. Probably the right move, to be honest, because Cleveland's an absolute dumpster fire. As they just lost to the team that's a dumpster fire in the Las Vegas Raiders. You look at a team like the Tennessee Titans. They have DeAndre Hopkins. And speaking of DeAndre Hopkins, look at his statuses right now. He's 32. He's a year older than Devontae. Let's go to Spot Track. Let's look at his contract. So I'm pulling that up right now. Again, another unrestricted free agent. Another rental. So all 3 of these guys are rentals. And it might cost you less for an Amari, and you still might get similar production. Same with DeAndre Hopkins. Although I do think Hopkins and Devontae are on a different level, and Devontae over those other 2 guys. But I'm not sleeping on DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sleeping on Amari Cooper. All 3 of those guys, honestly, have had great careers. And if I'm the 49ers, I'd be sniffing around all 3 of them. Why not? I know you invested a 1st round pick in Ricky Pearsall, but you know what? Redshirting him, it's not the worst thing. He had a horrible situation last month. The guy got shot in the chest. Honestly, for the mentals, as much as the physicals, just sit down, take everything in, and do what rookies do, that come into the NBA with, a knee injury or whatever. The Blake Griffins of the world. The redshirt season, the Chet Holmgrens, right? We just saw that. It's not the worst thing. And, if he's the heir apparent to Brandon Ayuk, move off Ayuk, get a rental, and then you got your guy in Pearsall that you believed in all along, right? There's ways to do this for the 49ers. But do they still value Brandon Ayuk? Is Shortsgate, is that a real thing? Is Shanahan tired of the act? He's not going to say he is. But are 49ers fans tired of it? That's what I want to know. 888-957-9570. Are you looking at this Devontae Adams situation saying, yeah, kick rocks, Brandon. Let's bring in Ayuk for the rest of the season. From the 415 on the Comcast Business text line. Get the deal done, Lynch. This is our year. The NFC is down right now. Getting Devontae would put us over the top. I think the Niners are not going to say that they're already over the top. But again, outside of the Detroit Lions, who I think can still be had defensively, I haven't been that impressed. The Bucs, I know Baldy was high on them. I'm not impressed. If you can get to Baker, it's night-night. The Saints, we saw what Derek Carr looked like the last couple weeks. Not impressed. Falcons, So that's the NFC South. Not impressive. NFC East, Commanders look impressive. But they also looked not great. Who's that week one they had against where Jaden Daniels just had the 2 rushing touchdowns? Let me see. Washington Commanders. But outside of that, they look pretty good. It was the Bucs, the aforementioned Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's right. And since then, the Commanders have won 3 in a row. And they look like the best team in the NFC East. But they're young. They got a rookie quarterback. I'm not worried about them from the 49ers. I'm not worried about the Eagles. They're a mess. They're an absolute mess right now. Sirianni, the odds of him getting fired go up by the loss every single week. Him, Doug Peterson, pick your poison. Which guy is going to get fired first? The writing's on the wall in both places. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, come on down. And then Dallas, yes. Could Dallas trade for Devontae? I mean, they need a running game first and foremost. That Derrick Henry whiff, Derrick Henry, by the way, from the state of Texas, how did they not do that? What an absolute disaster of an offseason for them. With all the holdouts, with all the hold-ins, Dak Prescott contract, CeeDee Lamb, that's another team that's looking like they are potentially spiraling down. And that leaves the, NFC North. The Vikings, they look for real. Okay. I'll still be skeptical of Sam Darnold a little bit. Not taking anything away from what he's done. I need to see it in the playoffs. If they make it. Don't fear the Packers. Don't fear the Bears. Again, the Lions' offense is concerning. But looking within your own division, if you're the 49ers, the NFC West, the Rams, they just lost to the Bears. You gave them that game a couple weeks ago on special teams. Cardinals look like they're a loss away from being done for the year. And maybe the Niners put them out of their misery. Seahawks just got a humbling loss, but I get it. They had a bunch of defensive players out. We'll see. Divisional games are always different, especially on a short week. And on Thursday next week in Seattle. So I'm still not fearing them, though. They got Geno Smith. I say all this to say this, as I do my guru. 49ers, go get Devontae Adams. Go get him. The rich get richer. And now you have first team All-Pro everywhere, basically. Tight end. Wide receiver. 2 wide receivers. Deebo Samuel's first team All-Pro. I get it. For special wide back, whatever. He's first team All-Pro when it comes to being a Weapon X. McCaffrey, if he comes back, it's another guy. But Jordan Mason's playing like a first team All-Pro right now anyways. He's a top 5 running back in all of football right now when it comes to all the metrics. Get it done, John Lynch. Go get him. What do you got to lose? 888-957-9570. We're up against it. One more break before handing it off and one more segment before handing it off to Bonte Hill and Joe Shaska at the top of the hour. In the meantime, get your calls in now, 888-957-9570, as the pregame show rolls on 95.7 The Game.
Ready for game day? Catch the football game at the Red and Gold Watch Party at the Veranda.
This is Oreo Cookie, and out here in the Bay, we wake up early for the pregame show with the big homie, Joe Spadoni, on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, Spadoni, shut up.
Don't worry, Goo, I will. I got 10 more minutes to speak, though, before handing it off to Bonte Hill and Joe Kowski, the Morning Roast. Shout out to all of you who are getting ready for work, getting off work. Appreciate all of you chiming in on the Comcast Biz text line, 888-957-9570. Had a lot of you chiming in on this Davante Adams discussion. Obviously, we still have a lot of Raider fans here that live in the Bay Area. And a lot of Niner fans that would love Davante Adams. So the trade block. Who's going to go get him? Is it the Jets and Aaron Rodgers? That makes sense. Might make the most sense. Is it the Buffalo Bills? No more Stephon Diggs, but you know what? Getting Davante Adams might be better. Possession receiver, up in the cold there in Buffalo, plays well. Might work out. A guy that's used to the cold playing in Green Bay already. It makes sense. Now, do you want him trading within the conference? Or are you just looking for the best package if you're Tom Telesco? We'll see. We shall see. Any news of that, we'll break it down right here, 888-957-9570. Looking like they're trying to get it done sooner rather than later. And right now, I believe, and I don't know how, listen, players do this all the time. He has a hamstring injury, I say in quotations, if you're not watching me on Twitch or YouTube. It's a hamstring injury. So we'll see how severe that is as the Raiders play the Broncos this week. And by the way, I think the Raiders have beaten the Broncos like 9 straight times or something ridiculous. But no Davante potentially for that. No Max Crosby potentially. You saw what the Broncos just did to the Jets. I'm expecting Bo Nix to have the game of his life because you know what? When it rains, it pours for Raiders fans. It just is what it is. And yes, I am a very self-loathing Raider fan because a lot of Raider fans are. Bite me. Buster Posey. Let's get into something more happy. His opening statement yesterday as he was introduced as new president of baseball operations.
I'm just excited. I'm excited to have an opportunity to be in this role. I'm excited to be a part of a team again. San Francisco Giants organization is all I've ever known. I think over the years as a player and the role I was in the last few years, I gained a pretty good sense of what it means to fans to have great players and have great teams. Think back on some of my earliest memories walking into a spring training clubhouse and walking in and seeing Willie Mays sitting at a table with Willie McCovey, Gaylord Perry, Juan Marichal, Joe Amalfitano. You know, the next week, it's Will Clark, Jeff Kent, Barry Bonds. And I always appreciated, and I don't think I'd appreciated it as much when I was a younger player, but as time went on, I appreciated just what that meant, not only to the community, but to us as players, and that there's a standard and expectation for being a San Francisco Giant. And it's a privilege to try to go out there on the field and hold ourselves accountable to that standard.
It's a great point because that's what I think is missing right now in San Francisco. What is the standard for the Giants right now? I don't even know. In the Farhan Zaidi era, it was just be mediocre. Like there was no pressure for this team or this organization to be anything but mediocre. And if you're Buster Posey, a guy that thrived in pressure situations, a guy that would pride himself on being clutch, whether it came to at the bat or behind the plate, and being in simpatico, as Ken Rosenthal likes to say, simpatico with his pitcher. Like, that is what's missing right now. A sense of urgency. We like to make fun of it all the time. Big Boss Man likes to say this. What you got to create urgency with your topics, right? What's the urgency here? And whether that's in your tone, whether that's in your take, there has to be something that draws a listener in. There has to be something that draws an audience in. And sometimes on this show, it's trade talk. Davante Adams. That's interesting. There's a sense of urgency here. If you're the 49ers, Super Bowl window, get me Davante Adams. Hey, for the San Francisco Giants, what was that urgency? It damn sure wasn't to win a World Series. Great, you had the 1 year, and then you didn't even build off of it. when the year was happening, their greatest regular season in Giants franchise history was happening, all the fans were like, yeah, this isn't sustainable. That is just so backwards. It's just laughable. So now Buster's in here, and he's going to try to bring back a sense of urgency and bring back a standard set by the guys like he mentioned. McCovey's, Bonds, Kent's, Buster Posey. He's not going to name drop himself, but that's the standard that those guys set, and the Giants are hoping to get back to it. And I think that's what the fans wanted to hear and want to see. Here's part 2 of that opening statement.
Those guys that I mentioned, you can go more towards my era with Kane and Lincecum and Bumgarner and Crawford and Belt, and you could go on and on. In my time, again, what I came to realize is, yeah, sure, all of those guys were great players, and they were part of great teams. But what those guys ultimately meant to the San Francisco Giants fan base and the community was memories. And all of us that are lucky enough to get to be involved in baseball in whatever capacity, I think understand that not only is it the greatest game in the world, but we're in the memory-making business. It's ultimately entertainment. It's an opportunity for grandparents and parents to share memories with friends. It's an opportunity for strangers sitting out in the bleachers to share a great memory that happens at the ballpark and that can be talked about from that time on for the rest of their life, potentially. So, with that, all of that in mind, I just can't say again how humbled I am to be in this role and, again, be a part of a team that's hopefully looking forward to making, more great memories for this fan base and community.
Opening statement there from Buster Posey yesterday as he was announced as president of baseball operations. Here's what Posey had to say on his philosophy when it comes to building an organization and building a team here in San Francisco. They talked about analytics.
Most definitely going to use analytics. I mean, I think that analytics are here and they're here to stay, and it would be a mistake to say that you're not going to use that information. As far as general philosophy, I think it's, as many of you know me, a lot of my basic principles are pretty simple. I want us to be known as a team that's, the ultimate prepared team, one that's fundamentals are held at a really high standard. And ultimately, this is all about the players. It's all about putting great players on the field. And I think our job as a front office, with Bob here as a coaching and the coaching staff, is to be able to identify those players and then get the most out of them.
And speaking of that coaching staff, what do you want to see from them, Buster?
It's the players first. And I think that's what I learned about Boch over the years is I always felt like Boch was pretty easy on us as players. But what I learned as time went along, he beat up on his coaches pretty good. And I think, again, from my experience with Boch and Sabes and talking with Bob, is the understanding that ultimately your job is a supporting role, right? Our job in the front office is a supporting role. Our job, their job as a coaching staff is a supporting role. So one of the challenges is going to be with all the information we have now is going to each player, and a lot of this does fall on the coach, is how much information can you give that player before it's too much, before it's diminished returns, and understanding that this guy's not exactly like the guy sitting right next to him in the locker. In today's game, that's a big part of preparing for the game, whereas early on in my career, that really wasn't a big part of the game. So we want guys ultimately to, when I say guys, the guys on the field that are out there every single night and day, to be accountable for their own careers. And I do think we live in our this day and age in our baseball world where there is so much information that it's easy sometimes to shift blame for one reason or another. And ultimately, I do hope to have a group of guys that no matter what, they can be accountable for their own selves and careers on the field.
Buster Posey, man, it's still just everything happened so fast still, it feels like. I know he was announced as, part of the owner, like helping him out, Greg Johnson, being part of the organization, and everything just felt so accelerated in the last few weeks when it came to that Chapman deal. Once we started seeing Chapman and Posey's names linked together during that contract talks, it's almost like the light went on and everyone says like, oh, this guy can get it done. This guy, he has a pulse for the players, because he was one. And there is something to be said about that. And I'm not here to, hammer down Farha not being a player, because, again, I've mentioned there's been plenty of GMs and general managers that never played that were very successful Theo Epstein. Dave Dombrowski, I'm pretty sure, never played professional baseball. But there is something when a player can talk to another player, a former player can talk to a current player, and getting on their level and talking about decisions and talking about the finances and talking about the family aspect, that is just different. And for a guy that won at his level, and how baseball is such a demanding sport year in and year out, being away from your family as much as you are on these different road trips all across America, who better in those negotiations than a guy like Buster Posey? Again, a catcher too will know the pitcher side of things. All right, I'm up against it. I got to go. Bonte Hill, Joe Shasky, Morning Roast. They're up next. Have a good morning, everybody.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco.